r/AskReddit asks, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen happen at work? While working at a supermarket, I was walking through the dairy department and saw a fellow employee over by the eggs. As I got closer, I could see him with a carton open and he seemed to be turning each egg. After doing the whole pack, I asked him what he was doing and he responded, "The manager asked me to rotate the eggs." I facepalmed and explained what they actually meant, to which he replied, "That makes a lot more sense." For context, in the grocery world, to rotate means to make sure the earliest dates of expiration are towards the front of the shelf. Eggs are rotated 360 deg every 24 hours by default. I worked the cameras at a casino and there was a kid, old enough to drink, who was given a free room to stay in because he was about to drive drunk. Instead of taking the room, he checked in, walked out the back exit, ran down a hill, ran full speed along the highway, army crawled his way up to his car, got in, drove off the parking lot, and was pulled over immediately. He deserved it and any punishment he receives. Worked at big outdoor activities center a few summers. There's lots of behind-the-scenes areas where the public can't see. Saw a new guy, who was definitely some friend of a friend of a friend. Favor hired from someone higher up. Not know where the toilets were, so just take a shit in a hedge behind scenes. I found him mid-shit. He proceeded to make really crude moves on all the women and I later found him receiving a blowjob from a guy in *, the same hedge *. He was asked to leave. Over the hedge too ain't looking so good. One guy did a spicy wing challenge at lunch. Later that afternoon he was on the floor of his cubicle moaning and crying and saying fuck so many times, very loudly. We tried to call an ambulance but he was adamant that he was going to be fine. At that point his superior should have probably told him to take the rest of the day off. The CEO and I entered the building early one morning and found a long-time, well-liked employee lying dead on the locker room floor. His head was surrounded with blood from where it hit the ceramic tile floor and his face so swollen that we didn't recognize him at first. The guy apparently suffered a major heart attack and died alone. That happened at my job. I have no idea who found the guy or what condition he was in. I didn't even find out it happened until I went to do my workout and the place was shut down for the next week. When I had an internship in an office, the second highest boss opened the door without knocking, stared at us aggressively, walked towards us and offered a box of chocolate marshmallows. Then he went out. He didn't say one word. If he didn't say anything, how do you know he was offering chocolate marshmallows and not just showing them off? A coworker, in a cotton mill, had a heart attack and died right there on the floor. The supervisor rolled off the area around him and work continued. EMT, coroner, police were all doing their job as we worked around them. I always thought management wouldn't care if we dropped dead. This just proves it. It was a really slow day and I kept getting distracted from the Lord of the Rings fanfiction I was reading by the weird squeaky noises I kept hearing behind me. I finally turned around and there was my manager, a 35-year-old man, about 3/4 of the way done with making a balloon animal crown for his life-size Homer Simpson statue. I asked him to make me a doggy when I was done, and he did. A blue one. I kept it until I accidentally popped it, which scared the shit out of one of my other coworkers. I had a coworker sneak up behind me and loudly pop a balloon behind my head to see if I'd hit the deck or not. I was so baked I didn't even flinch. Sadly, my lack of reaction meant she didn't get the laugh she was going for. This was in the 80s at a bad software company run entirely by men. Wonder of wonders. An extremely competent and popular woman programmer was appointed to a management position in development. The younger developers decided to have a parade. She was of Scandinavian descent, so they made for her a horned helmet and sword out of aluminum foil, and made for her a sedan chair out of a wooden chair with a couple of pieces of lumber under the arms for support. Then they carried her outside on the chair while she waved her sword, and paraded her around the parking lot at the head of a long column of programmers wearing fish hats and throwing firecrackers. I never understood the fish hats, edit, and kazoo music. I forgot that. Those were the days. If I ever get into a management position, I hope my team is so excited that they also throw me this kind of parade. Goals, man. I work in a kindergarten for kids with special needs. One kid kept going for a quiet place few times a day, and we figured he just needed some time alone. This was outside in the playground where there was a little tree house in the back behind some trees. On the third day of this happening, I went to see what's up and encourage him to talk about why he needed time alone. I found him sitting on the ground eating one big spoonful of sand after the other. We're not just talking baby eating sand here, more like a medium-sized kid shoveling sand down his stomach like it was his favorite food. So yeah, this little boy probably ate a lot of sand during those 3 days and probably longer. He's fine now, too. Greater now. Kicked me in the butt when I saw him in a grocery store a week ago. I work with adults with intellectual disabilities, and a common condition that accompanies a lot of the various diagnoses is pica, which is basically an involuntary compulsion to eat things that are not at all food. It often manifests in eating dirt, sand, the like. It's not at all surprising to me that he was doing this, especially a young child who already might be apt to put things in his mouth. In a creche daycare, one of the moms dropped off her baby and amp. When handing him to one of the staff, she kissed the staff member on the face and said, "Love you," and went off to work. Phoned a couple hours later to say, "I've just realized what I did this morning. I'm so sorry, I was half asleep and I guess I'm so used to handing him to my husband." We had a good laugh. That's like calling your teacher or friend's parent mom or dad. Coworker came in and found a chunk of his desk missing. After investigating, we found a bullet, and a bullet hole above his desk. I ended up on the roof patching the hole. No idea who decided to shoot our building in the middle of the night. If the bullet came in from the ceiling, then someone was probably firing randomly into the air. Gravity caught up and the bullet fell into your building, rather than some innocent person's skull. Was at technical school, but I had that friend who was setting up a firewall for schools of the region. It meant that he had to check if porn sites were blocked. They were not. Most striking is having my friend and our teacher behind him looking at porn sites during class. The good old days. Our office shares a bathroom with the dental office next door. The dentist is a weirdo. I'll walk in and he will jump like he was doing something he wasn't supposed to. There are other things, but he comes off as slimy. Alas. In the weird dentist's defense, not everyone who jumps like you've caught them engaged in something illicit is actually doing something bad. Some of us are just weirdos who drift off in our heads and then startle really easily and dramatically. My first manager used to slap everybody's ass when he first saw them on any given day. Not lightly either, like a full-blown smack. I literally had a red mark for a few hours once. Needless to say, he didn't last long. Bing. One Monday morning, at 8 a.m., there was a frog in the lobby. Not a small frog, either, a big frog. The front doors were still locked and it was Monday morning, so we had no idea how the little guy got into the lobby. He would have had to have hopped all the way from the back of the building to get to the lobby. This one is my favorite. A big frog. A large heavy-set man falling down a set of stairs, what seemed to be in slow motion, and once he got to bottom he screamed my balls. Then he got up, picked up whatever fried snack he was eating and casually walked away as if it never happened. I used to work in a building that overlooked a medium-sized river. One day my co-workers and I got to observe a river rescue of a guy who fell in and was having problems getting out. It was pretty fast water that day. Okay, it's been a long day, but at first I overlooked as didn't notice. I was trying so hard to understand. I work for a delivery app. I was picking up a fast food order and an open carry guy comes in. There's a security guard at this joint. Weird, and he notices it right away. Open carry isn't allowed in here, sir. Please leave. They start arguing and yelling at each other, and I felt I should get out of here immediately, even though I had paid with the app card but hadn't received the food yet. And as I was leaving, I noticed other customers leave as well. My app understood the situation and didn't penalize me. Was the security guard right? Is it only public spaces or something? Seems really awkward if someone carrying would need to put a jacket on or whatever for each different place they go. Either way, it was a great decision to get out of there. One day I was at work and I smiled. That was pretty weird. Two things come to mind from when I worked at a department store in college. A woman came into the store, went through the perfume aisle, took a few bottles into the layaway storage room, and drank them. This was all right before closing, maybe 10 minutes or so. Watching this on camera was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Some dude came in strumming a banjo as he followed his SO around as she shopped. I, and all of my coworkers, searched for someone with a camera to see if it was some sort of gag, but nope. Dude just walked the aisles with his girl playing the banjo to keep himself occupied.